Okay, so why don't we get ourselves started here? I am Jim Hamilton with InfoTrends, and I've got a lot of material to run through, and I'm going to run through it quick. So what I'd like you to do is think about any questions you have, because I want to save 5 minutes at the end for Q&A. But if I could ask a couple of questions of people here first. I know we have one representative of a print federation. Do we have print service providers in the room? Print service providers, people who offer printing services to, okay, so are these all vendors in here? All vendors? So system vendors of some kind? Journalists, maybe, I don't know. Nobody's raising their hand, so I don't know who's out there. Do we have any English speakers out in the audience? How about that? All right, that's good. All right, well, that's a good start anyway. So, oh, there too? Hi, come on in and have a seat. All right, well, good. So my topic here is industrial printing and some of the emerging opportunities. When I've been looking at the schedule of what's on here, you could just stay in your seat and get the overview of industrial printing, get printed electronics next, and a couple of more following up. So a real good opportunity here. But my intent is to cover the broad range of all sorts of things that we would put under functional and industrial. And just as a quick introduction, I'm Jim Hamilton. I'm a group director with InfoTrends. We're a market research and consulting firm in Weymouth, Massachusetts, which is a little bit south of Boston. And I have responsibility for the production group within InfoTrends, which looks at really document and printing technologies across all sorts of environments. So everything from a small, quick printer all the way to a transaction printer, a book printer, a package printer, any kinds of those environments, wide format printers. You'll see that I'm very active on Twitter. If you've been following Twitter here and looking at the FESPA digital hashtag, I've been active tweeting and doing photos. So if you're into the social media thing, you can find me there. You can find me on LinkedIn as well. We blog frequently. Our blogs about FESPA will probably follow the show. And then also I've done a number of different videos with print samples. So I come to a show like this, collect interesting things. A little bit harder to show like this because the print samples are like immense and don't fit in my suitcase going home. But you'll see some on YouTube related to that. And for print service providers, we have a business development strategies group headed by Barb Pello, who some of you from the United States or North America may know, but doing a lot to help service providers understand what they need to do to drive the market forward. But enough of that ad. If you think about the overall view of the industrial printing world, you can break it up into a range of different categories. And typically what InfoTrends does is to think of it really more as a spectrum that includes packaging, decorative printing, functional printing, 3D printing. And that spectrum goes all the way from more document-oriented applications, so more the typical graphic arts, the promotional, direct mail kinds of pieces, all the way into packaging, which kind of starts to have a functional component because the function of a package really is to contain some object, to even more functional sorts of applications, what we would call decorative and then truly functional. Now, on this spectrum, you're going really from graphic arts to functional industrial. You're going from ink and toner to the jetting of all sorts of weird materials, right? I mean, by the time you get to making a solar panel or something, you're not squirting ink anymore. Different kinds of substrates. So this show has really impressed me for the fact that not only do you have paper, but you've got board, you've got glass, you've got metal, you've got ceramics, you've got textiles, all sorts of different substrates. And in some cases, as you get way down on the end of the spectrum, there's no substrate at all. I mean, what is the substrate for 3D printing? I mean, you're just printing into air, basically. So very interesting in terms of those marketplaces. And the questions that we get a lot is how big are these markets? Because some of these markets are really well established. If you think of this on a market development kind of curve, where nascent early technologies are on the far left side, you got real rapid growth and competitive turbulence, and then market saturation. By the time you get to the end, you may have markets that are sort of in decline. Transactional printing because of the delivery of documents electronic, very big market, but not necessarily a huge amount of growth there. Come back a little bit and you've seen, things like sign and display, still on a growth curve, but that's a big marketplace with a lot of vendors in it. As you come down the curve, sort of to the lower left-hand corner, you get to some applications that are relatively small in size. You can see we put the value of print in billions there. I mean, things like biomedical, direct-to-shape, lots of areas where there's some neat activity, but they're still pretty small right now. Now, thinking about some of the enablers that have made this possible, really, Inkjet has driven a lot of this aspect of the marketplace because of the ability to go to high resolutions, because of the speed capabilities, and because of the ability to jet a whole lot of different kinds of fluids. So high resolution, the ability to create a number of different drop sizes, a new era in terms of line of print heads, so not just really narrow heads, but wider heads and arrays that can be just meters and meters long. MEMS manufacturing has increased the ability for producers to create much more cost-effective heads. And then the material science in terms of all the ink and consumable providers, so you see all over the show floor here, has really moved that forward. And for me, what's exciting about the digital side of the marketplace is that it allows really new kinds of business models. And we've seen that in the document production side. Again, that's my heritage, that's where I come from, where you see people like in the transaction marketplace who used to have two-step processes, pre-print offset shells for the logo on a transaction document, and then they would laser on your variable data piece. Well, high-speed inkjet color devices came into the marketplace, and people could do that all in one step, and not only have that sort of process improvement, but also be able to add variable data color and do much more intriguing things with documents. And that's the kind of business transformation that you see across the board here on the functional and industrial side. I mean, for example, some of the great textile designs that you see around in the show floor here are done by individual designers who now have the capability to go out to providers, see what their scarf design or whatever it might be would look like in a very short period of time, and then go into production in relatively low volumes cost effectively. And that's changed the way, in the same way that photo books and self-publishing on the publishing side of the marketplace have changed. You see the same thing happening with textiles and other applications. So those values will expand. Now, what you're going to see in my presentation is I've divided it out in a couple of different types, and as I said, I'm going to fly right through this, so keep up with me and then ask questions later. But color digital packaging is what I'll look at first. We've got sort of functional and 3D, and then also the decorative printing. I'm going to go through some of the players, some of the trends, and what's going on in these marketplaces. So packaging is a market that a huge number of vendors and suppliers have their eyes on. Why is that? I mean, in part, it's one application that you're not going to lose to electronic delivery. Transactional printers, book printers, they're all worried about losing volume to electronic delivery. Well, you're probably never delivering a package electronically. But we think that most of the packaging volume today is coming from analog processes. So digital has gotten some foothold, particularly within labels, a little bit within flexible packaging, some in folding carton with sort of limited format size to date, and a little bit around corrugated, but that's all going to change. That's going to move forward. So really, we'll see the packaging market, which is very complex in terms of the different kinds of products and applications. We'll see that expand over the next couple of years in a big way. So the established sort of applications on the packaging side, certainly you're seeing labels, some smaller folding cartons, a little bit of direct to bottle kind of work being done, although that's just nascent. On the production side here, certainly companies like EFI, Zycon, Indigo, and others are entering the marketplace with some intriguing new products. We see even larger, more activity around folding carton and corrugated with announcements that have come at this show. So very active market. Now, what's driving the packaging side of the marketplace? Certainly, some of the factors that are pushing things to digital print include brand owners' requirements. So what does a brand owner want? Maybe they want to target their market a little bit more precisely. Maybe they want to fill their channel in a more effective fashion. They like the ability of being able to do short run, which hasn't really been much of an opportunity in the packaging marketplace up until now. And so there is also, I think, a commitment by the various OEM vendors that packaging is a big market for them. And you see a lot of that displayed here. Now, what limits the digital print side of the packaging marketplace? Certainly a lot of these devices are significantly expensive in terms of their acquisition price. And other technologies don't sit still either. Flexo, offset technology, and we'll see in some cases where there's hybrid use, where maybe inkjet goes on to a traditional flexo or offset press. And when it comes to long runs, offset's dominance has has been long-standing and will continue for a long time. Trying to manufacture a lot of the same thing, offset, flexo, and other more conventional technologies are great at that. Okay, let's shift gears a little bit and talk about decorative printing. Now, decorative printing really covers such a wide range of areas, and each of these really, in a lot of cases, could take you to a range of different trade shows that aren't just printing ones. I talked to a number of the vendors, and they say, okay, well, I was at this, vertical market show, maybe a retail-oriented show, maybe an architecture and design show. They're at shows that they wouldn't normally have been at because, you're printing on ceramics, God knows, food, glass, metal, paper, plastic, textiles, woods. And the ability to do some of those digital print things, like unique messaging, like the brand awareness capabilities, being able to bring a customized look to that packaging, all of this in an environmentally friendly way is important. And of course, short runs, quick turnaround, that's been a typical digital print kind of asset. But to be able to do that in the packaging marketplace on a range of different substrate types, that's key. And so there's been a lot of work around the material science side to help drive growth in this area, and that certainly will continue. Now, again, I want to stress the range of substrates here. This is actually my first FESPA here. It's been more of a wide format show. Tim Green is the analyst at InfoTrends who covers wide format. I had the opportunity to be here because of another speaking engagement, and so I am just like aghast, stunned when I look and I can see in various implementations, mirrors, aluminum, concrete, people printing on Venetian blinds, tile, all sorts of different substrates. And the ability to do that in a range of ways is really just stunning for me. Now, again, I know some of this has been done for a while, but you're talking to somebody who has been to a lot of shows like Drupa and IPEX and Graph Expo and Print, where, honestly, a lot of it's on paper. It's paper, different kinds of paper, but it's still paper. Now, as you look at these kinds of decor-oriented products, whether it's on any of the range of substrates you see on the far side of the slide, the ability to bring that sort of individuality and creativeness and quality, timeliness, competitiveness, all of those things drive this marketplace. Now, again, I'm going to go through some of these categories because for each of those different kinds of substrates, there's a different set of application needs. So in the case of glass, increased production of this flat glass capability is going to be important, particularly for architecture and the automotive side of the marketplace. Now, in architecture, when economies go up, architecture and building and all those kinds of things tend to go up. When the economy goes down, it's kind of not so good for that overall part of the marketplace. But here, what we feel is that the economic recovery is going to drive some demand for the kind of products that would be printed on glass. So doors, walls, dividers, windows, so you'll see that kind of application. And then there are also areas that are not residential kinds of construction where you're thinking about schools, hospitals, offices, hotels, all of those kinds of things, bring in really unique ways of taking advantage of this technology. Part of the challenge really is to making sure that designers and the architects and engineers know that there are these capabilities that they can build in as they think about their designs. And a lot of times it relates also to the requirement by various folks to have a green aspect. So to be printing on those substrates, but not necessarily with really destructive kinds of chemicals. So in the cases where I go through here, I'll show a couple of products here. Now, there are probably vendors in here who are going to look up here and not see their product. Come tell me later. We'll include it in the slide next time. But typically what we've done in these slides is to include some of the top vendors. Oh, and for those of you, taking notes or taking pictures, if you want to have a copy of the presentation, just give me your card after and I'll send you the PDF. But in any case, so Tech Glass, Dipket, Dirk, Stiefelmeier, Contento, all involved in that side of the glass production marketplace. All right, again, I said I was going to fly through this, so we're going from glass to ceramics now. So high-speed printers, typically using ceramic types of inks, the range of designs and patterns that you can get there to really drive custom production is amazing. And the quality levels that you see on those tiles, just fantastic. And I've seen some on ceramic surfaces that go kind of up and down and up and down, and still you've got a beautiful image on the top of that. So really very amazing results. Durability can be very high depending on the ink capability, and when you're doing these kinds of things, you can drive efficiency, not necessarily having to store large quantities of of pre-printed tiles, and certainly that helps. In terms of the inkjet design, we're also seeing selectable quality levels that allow you to sort of meet your speed and productivity need to your client's demands. So this does open up new opportunities in terms of the value chain, how ceramics get provided to people, how you can personalize and customize those kinds of things. You'll see examples from companies like System Ceramics, Durst, Hope China, Ferro-Karajet, Print, the EFI company, the EFI acquired, Diptech. And honestly, as I go around the show floor here, I see many ceramic examples, and in fact, a number of wide format devices that are printing just on what seems like virtually anything. So this is by no means an extensive list of the folks who print on ceramics, because a lot of them, if the ink capability is there, they'll be able to drive that. All right, let's go to laminate. So think about things like flooring, countertops, those sorts of things, which typically have maybe a wood grain or some other pattern printed on them, generally with analog technologies and quite high volumes, but the speeds of inkjet and the capabilities, the durability capabilities and the ability to laminate some of those kinds of things really has the potential to change this market as well. And I think really it's the high productivity of some of these inkjet devices that, okay, people may have been thinking about this a while ago, 3, 4, 5 years ago. Now the productivity levels are really able to drive the marketplace. So localized supply chain, custom and short-run production, all very important here. Green, you'll hear that throughout all of these discussions. Residential construction in regard to wood are key for these kinds of placements, so you got to look at the residential users' needs. The comparison between wood flooring and sort of fake laminate wood flooring could help drive this marketplace too, so we do expect to see sales increase. And there are also those who create these kinds of laminates who want to be able to differentiate their products in comparison to, say, what we would call some of the big box stores, the ones who are selling construction-oriented products. So that's something certainly that impacts this marketplace. And here, again, not necessarily names that you would have heard from the wide format side of the world, but people who are really looking at these kinds of technologies. Hyman, Barberon, Cefla, Diefenbacher, all doing work in these areas, and again, you'll see other implementations from other vendors. I show this picture here, and so we're talking about textile here, but actually this relates a little bit to wall covering as well. So if you were, a wall cover, wallpaper manufacturer, chances are you got designs going back 60 years, and you've got the print cylinders to go with them, and you got a huge warehouse. This is an example of one to store all your print cylinders. Okay, that has sort of an analog feel to it, that picture, right? The idea basically being you want to move to a workflow where you could get rid of these and print cost effectively from a digital master, which is what we're seeing lots of folks do across a range of areas within the textile side of the marketplace. So that can include fashion, industrial, performance apparel, decor, and you see tremendous amount of it going on here. Thinking about some of those trends, back to, okay, how do you meet customer demand in terms of short runs, the ability to customize or personalize, what kind of risk are you taking in terms of the overall inventory? And for me, the lessons that are learned, let's say in the book marketplace, where publishers have really adopted this idea of book on demand, print on demand, is it feasible in certain kinds of textile and fashion types of applications? Definitely, you see that translate over. Your ability to bring products to market, so think about a designer who can get a comp immediately back instead of having to wait 3 months for a conventional process to create. The ability to have quick turnaround in terms of the design is important, and that allows people to innovate. And from an environmental side, this is a market that the final products are going to be laying against other people's skin in many cases. So it's got to be green and not include toxic materials. So use of water, raw material waste in some of the existing processes, if those can be gotten around, also around energy consumption, if there's a more energy efficient method, markets will definitely go from it. So in terms of textile printing solutions, you'll see some of them here. I know, for example, Reggiani is here with that particular product. So, you see La Meccanica, Robustelli, Stork, Konica Minolta. There are a number of different offerings here, and a number of whom are on the show floor here today. So again, this has gone from being what I would have thought of more as sort of a screen printing wide format show to such a wide range of functional industrial applications. So let me talk now about the functional and 3D printing group here. So on the functional side, this is really a very diverse market, emerging as I showed in one of those earlier slides. Some of these are still fairly small. Things like display lighting, creating of batteries, the photovoltaic idea, system components. I mean, you see the market sizes there. I won't necessarily go into that. Driven in part by some technologies that allow you to lay down either inks or other substances, conductive substances, to allow you to do things, like touch screens or like flexible screens, or the batteries, or why am I spacing it on the word? What's the thing you put on the roof to get the sun, there we go, solar panels. Every once in a while, the brain just doesn't work. But now on 3D printing, I'm not really going to spend much time on 3D printing, because the problem is it's another whole set of range of applications. A lot of the vendors are interested in it. In fact, I think the stock markets are a little bit over-interested in some of this. There's a bit of hype around this marketplace, but there's also a lot of opportunity. And I'd say actually that from the 3D printing side of the marketplace, what I think is the biggest tie back here is related to packaging. So create a 3D printed prototype of whatever the product is before it's even manufactured, then you can start creating your packaging, your bubble wraps, whatever goes around that packaging before the product is completed, and thereby improve your ability to get to market faster. So I mean, that's the application that I see most important. When I see people talking about, okay, I'm going to print a replacement for my chess piece or something, that doesn't seem like a killer app to me. Packaging does. I think there are some interesting things happening around apparel, architecture, electronics, engineering, medical. But this is a market that's relatively small right now, doubling in size, but again, will have some big potential moving forward. And so really just to wrap it up here, one of the things we want to do is sort of put a wrapper around this marketplace to say, all right, what are the various categories? So we think good broad categories are packaging, decorative, functional, and 3D. We're looking at all those areas. We have done forecasts around the digital packaging side of the marketplace, the textile printing side of the marketplace, and we're looking to add additional research there. The most recent research piece that we actually have going into the field right now is around decorative. So we're going out to architects and designers and asking them about either their knowledge of those products, their needs for those kinds of capabilities. And again, we feel that research is going to be important in understanding that marketplace. But that's one little sliver of this entire market. So lots of opportunity here, some very small to start with, some moving forward, and just a huge range of system vendors for that whole marketplace. Well, it looks like I've managed to hold about 5 minutes for question and answer, and I would love to be able to hear what you guys have to say in the audience. Ask me any questions. We have a walk-around microphone, so let me see a hand here. I want a brave person to ask a question. I think you can ask a question, right? No? Yeah. There we go. Get me started here, right?
Okay. Yeah. So you talked a lot about the interior decoration market and architecture and everything, and mainly from a point of view where we as a printing industry react to things happening in the market. But do you see also that market changing? For example, when you go to a run of one, so every piece can be customized. Do you think our workflows are ready to work with that, or?
Well, it's the idea of using really expensive equipment to do runs of one. There's not always an economic argument to do that. But I agree with you on the document production side. It took a long time for the front end workflow and finishing to catch up with some of the capabilities of the print engines. But if I look at the wide format marketplace, I've seen a couple of devices where you can print two different images on the same bed at the same time, right? Well, that's kind of getting to your point. Do you want to be able to do that, split up among two kinds of even materials? Or even just two designs on the same kind of material but two different boards? I think that gets to that point. Ultimately, though, you will have dedicated applications where people really are just driving the volume that they that these higher speed devices are capable of doing. And I think also when you start either making it more eco-friendly, if you're able to get rid of warehousing costs in some cases, or if you're able to just do unique effects that maybe weren't possible with those other technologies. So I hope that helps. Other questions? Come on, don't be shy. Here we go. Everybody's avoiding my eyes now because I know I'll pick somebody. No. Nobody want to ask? Well, look, it has been a pleasure. As I said, I have, I'd be happy to give anybody a PDF. If you'll give me your business card, I'd be happy to send you that way. I encourage you to, follow me on LinkedIn or Twitter because, again, very active show, all sorts of things going on. You can learn a lot by seeing what's at hashtag FESPA Digital or via me at jrhinfotrends.com. So anyway, thank you very much for listening. I appreciate it. Take care now.